Good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Hakem. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. I'm so glad that you have joined us this morning. We have a busy morning, a lot to cover. I know yesterday we spent such a good amount of time with the former Congressman and current Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. We try to get to as many of your questions as possible. We did missed a few comments, so let's start with those. Yesterday, Rick wrote in, "Good morning, Frank." Well, good morning, Rick. Tuesday's evening, and the Yankees are playing. So he wrote this Tuesday, sent it out yesterday. That can't be right. Did I print out the wrong one? No, I didn't. Okay. While I'm watching updates that the Fed chief could step down, Trump is sending in his inspectors to see if the Fed building project is being mismanaged. Well, it's $600 million over budget. I'd say a little mismanaged. So Trump will use this mismanagement of funds to fire Powell. So he'll fire him, drop rates by 3%, and create another crisis. Hang on. More importantly, it's great interference for the Epstein files. Speaking of the Epstein files, the Attorney General told Trump 2 months ago his name is in them. I had mentioned that on the program. That's what the Wall Street Journal is reporting. Must be fake news. He was asked a week or so about it. He said, no. We had a brief discussion about it, and that's it. A lie. Oh, the sky is falling, and I love it. Then Interference 2 was sending, I don't know who that is, Skunk Hair, to the podium to say that Obama, that's a low one, Rick, Tulsi Gabbard, to say that Obama and the Clintons were behind fixing the Russian interference for the 2016 election and looking to incite a coup against Trump for the first year of his first term. And I saw some data today that Harry Enton provided on the net approval rating for presidencies at 6 months since 1953. On average, presidents are at plus 28 points. This time around, Trump is at minus 11. There's only one worse. You guessed it, Trump's first go-around at minus 16. Not exactly the most popular president in history like he says he is. So good night for the bad guys. Trump will get away with it anyways. He always has gotten away with every rotten thing he's ever done, which is a lot. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Have a good day, Rick. Thank you. Oh, P.S. Scott Jennings is a dork. I don't know. I like Scott Jennings. I mean, he's the only conservative at CNN, and that can be an awkward position to be in. Now, this one, it gets a little bit heavy, and I don't know exactly how I want to word it. Excuse me. But morning, Frank. Well, good morning. If I might pose a question, now that I'm not particularly religious, but I wonder if Jesus would be for the pro-life, transparent Republicans, or if he would side with the anti-life, despicable Democrats. So I think that's a little biased, viewer. I wonder about this in spite of knowing that according to the Bible, Jesus loves everyone. So bottom line, Democrats or Republicans? Interesting question. That's a little too heavy for this program, viewer. In addition, though, he has a good point with Jesus being a Jew, and then when you see the anti-Semites that are making so much news, what would that mean? Does that mean that they would despise Jesus? Therefore, Jesus being the Son of God, God. A lot of heavy theology this morning. I don't have an answer for those, but I did appreciate your further. I didn't want to get to it on the program, but your further in-depth look at both the Monterey Pop album and The Last Waltz. The Last Waltz is one of my all-time favorites. The album itself and the movie is, I think, very good as well. All right. Comment from Mark. He writes in, "Good morning." Well, good morning, Mark. Hulk Hogan dies at 71 of a cardiac arrest, and the Supreme Court blocks background checks for California ammo buyers. Let's see if New York will follow, but I doubt it. I doubt it as well. Yes, Hulk Hogan passing away at the age of 71. Did you realize he was baptized just 18 months before his tragic death? He wrote back in December of 2023, "Total surrender and dedication to Jesus is the greatest day of my life. No worries, no hate, no judgment, only love." Footage from the ceremony showed Hogan being dunked into a baptismal pool and coming up smiling, all while wearing his go-to bandana. His wife, Sky Daly, was baptized alongside him, and the group bowed their heads in prayer after the ceremony. Hogan did pass away at the age of 71, with early reports suggesting he suffered a cardiac arrest at home. Trump paying tribute to the Hulkster, calling him a great friend. "We lost a great friend today, the Hulkster," the president said in a statement on Truth Social. Hulk Hogan was MAGA all the way, strong, tough, smart, but with the biggest heart. He gave an absolute electric speech at the Republican National Convention. That was one of the highlights of the entire week. He entertained fans from all over the world, and the cultural impact he had was massive. To his wife Sky and family, we give our warmest, best wishes and love. Hulk Hogan will be greatly missed. The 6-time undisputed WWE champion tore off his shirt, revealing a Trump Vance tank top underneath at last July's RNC in Milwaukee, just days after the former and future president narrowly escaped an assassination attempt. What happened last week when they took a shot at my hero and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough, he said. And that's when he ripped his shirt. And I said, let Trump-o-mania run wild, brother. Let Trump-o-mania make America great again. J.D. Vance also paying tribute to the late Hulk Hogan, saying Hulk Hogan was a great American icon, one of the first people I ever truly admired as a kid. The last time I saw him, we promised we'd get beers together next time we saw each other. The next time we'll have to be on the other side, my friend. Rest in peace. Yes, he just came out. He was actually in Rochester not that long ago because he was selling a new brand of beer. I think it was called, I can't remember. I don't want to speculate what it was called because I can't remember. But Hulk Hogan passing away at the age of 71, and in a tribute to him, hecklers hijacked Ron DeSantis's Hulk Hogan tribute. As we've been talking about a lot lately, this idea of using, in this case, a death or any type of tragedy to push a political message is quite common, unfortunately. A heckler launched into a profanity-laced tirade yesterday, slamming Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' immigration policies during a news conference, interrupting the governor while he was paying tribute to pro wrestling legend and state resident Hulk Hogan. The man, positioned near the back of the room, was caught on camera jumping up from his seat and pointing aggressively at DeSantis while shouting, "Alligator Alcatraz is your blanking legacy." Cussing, also getting all the check marks in there. "Hey, stop it," he said. "Get out of here. Get out of here." The unidentified heckler continued yelling as he was being removed by authorities. The outburst came just 3 minutes into DeSantis' remarks. At the time, he was sharing a personal memory of watching Hulk Hogan's iconic showdown against Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. I remember WrestleMania 3, he was up. That's when the heckler interjected. I know it wasn't specifically to ambush. He would have ambushed it no matter what DeSantis was saying. But maybe pick your timing a little bit better. Maybe keep that rage, keep that anger inside, bottled up until a more appropriate time in the presentation. But I thought Kristen Flemings had a really kind of interesting point on all of this, saying it's been a week of tremendous loss for us Gen X kids. The last few days on social media has felt like one long requiem for the pop culture of the 1980s and 90s. First, lovable Cosby Show star Malcolm Jamal Warner, a.k.a. Theo Huxtable, tragically drowned while swimming in Costa Rica at only 54 years old. Then Ozzy Osbourne passing away at 76. And then Thursday, wrestling icon Hulk Hogan fulfilled the old saying that death comes in 3. And oh brother, the last one was a drop kick to my heart. Like for legions of others, sadness is running wild all over my precious childhood memories of a time when Hulkamania reigned. At 71, Hogan was relatively ancient for a pro wrestler whose body had endured years of back-breaking aerobatic maneuvers, corrective surgeries, and admitted steroid abuse. So many of his fellow performers who toiled in the ring went to early graves. But as a friend remarked, it felt like Hogan was never going to die. It's been a long time since he was the young stud, it says here, who convincingly played Thunderlips, the ultimate male, in Rocky III, a role that would turn Hogan into a superstar and take pro wrestling into a golden age. And I'm sure he was no longer strong enough to scoop up and body slam a man of Andre the Giant stature like he did at WrestleMania 3. But decades on, Hogan remained faithful to his shtick and his platinum horseshoe mustache. Man. Tongue-tied all week, not just this morning. Last summer, he burst into the Republican National Convention with his high-octane personality, shouting like vintage Hogan. He seemingly hadn't lost a step, even performing his patented move of tearing off his shirt, revealing the Trump Vance t-shirt. His rousing speech and presence assured the RNC was a proper Trumpian circus, leaving the party's stodgy pearls and sweater set culture of yore in the dirt. Pundits can argue over the merits of such an appearance, but thanks to Hogan, the night was not lacking in entertainment. That was his specialty. Hogan was an enduring showman. Fittingly, Hogan's theme song was Rick Derringer's Real American, a perfect theme song. I had the pleasure of, and Rick Derringer, we just lost him not that long ago. I had the pleasure of interviewing him years back and talking to him about that song. But as a young performer, he personified the boldness of the United States of America in the 1980s, helping to export our culture to a global audience. At 6'7", he was a big man. He was golden-haired, he was optimistic, and he was always flexing his massive muscles. You might say he was the American dream come to life. As a country, we had no better hype man than when he swooped his hand to his ear, demanding more celebration from the crowd, which has become almost, I don't want to say cliche, but overused. Other people overusing it. Hogan also exuded a wholesomeness, regularly reminding kids to say your prayers, eat your vitamins, be a real American. Transcending the ring, he set the blueprint for megastars like John Cena and The Rock to take over Hollywood. Like Forrest Gump, he managed to pop up in almost every part of American life, movies, sports, reality television, and yes, even a consequential 2016 trial that grappled with the First Amendment and privacy rights. The later was a result of Gawker.com. It ultimately led to their bankruptcy. I'm not going to tell you all the sordid details. In one surreal moment, he appealed to the judge to allow him to wear his trademark bandana in court. Request granted. Life always imitated art with Hogan. He was delightfully ridiculous. To quote the man himself, Hulkamania will live forever. I thought that was a very appropriate opinion piece. We also lost yesterday, and this may have been missed in the news, depending on what outlet you went to, but arguably the most successful musician to come out of Rochester, New York, Chuck Mangione, passed away at the age of 84. The family of Chuck Mangione is deeply saddened to share that Chuck peacefully passed away in his sleep at his home in Rochester, New York, on July 22nd, 2025. Now, I did not realize he was still living in Rochester. A jazz composer playing flugelhorn and a trumpet player, Charles Frank Chuck Mangione, was born in Rochester, November 29th, 1940. It's interesting, and I know this is going to sound strange for some people, but with the remake of the King of the Hill, or a reboot of the King of the Hill cartoon series, this is a major loss, because he was, for some reason, always showing up in that program. He was spokesperson for their local big box store. Just kind of one of those weird occurrences in that show. So just interesting as that reboot is just about to kick off. I wonder if there'll be any reference there. In 2012, he was introduced in the Rochester Music Hall of Fame. His love for Rochester was deep, hence his song Rochester, My Sweet Home. He's been to every major city in the country. Yeah, he always came back to Rochester. He was born and raised here, and he died here. Beyond music, Mangione was a lifelong Yankees fan and played the national anthem at Yankee Stadium, as well as several MLB All-Star games. To honor his memory and continue his legacy, please enjoy listening to your favorite Chuck song, the obituary read. So Chuck Mangione passing away at the age of 80, at the age of 84. Come on, Frank, settle down. I know, I'm just too excited to be here on this Friday. I feel like we're going to have a good one in store for you today. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in. We're just getting warmed up, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hard water makes it hard to keep your home looking like the work of art you've always envisioned it would be. Culligan softeners reduce hard water buildup and your cleaning time, transforming every drop, every splash, every rinse into the fine art of a long-lasting clean. With a Culligan water softener, revel in the breathtaking beauty of your home, just the way you've always pictured it. Culligan, water you love.
I'm Mary Unkert. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Hi, this is the owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio here on Market Street in Corning. Big breaking story coming out yesterday, which the media, timing-wise, because of what happened with Stephen Colbert, which we may talk about a little bit later on in the program, they are saying there's too much of a coincidence here, but the FCC greenlit the $8.4 billion sale of CBS parent Paramount to Skydance after Trump's suit was settled and DEI was axed. Yes, the Federal Communications Commission gave the green light to the $8.4 billion merger between Paramount Global and Skydance Media, finally clearing the way for a deal that has been throttled by allegations of bias against CBS News. The merger, expected to be completed in the next few weeks, will give independent film studio Skydance control of CBS, Paramount Pictures, the Paramount Plus streaming service, as well as cable channels that include MTV, Nickelodeon, and Comedy Central. Skydance saying, "We're going to celebrate now. We're all beat up, just exhausted, but it was well worth it." The next step is to close the deal early by August the 7th. The approval from the FCC, headed by President Trump-nominated Chair Brendan Carr, comes 3 weeks after Paramount paid $16 million to settle a lawsuit filed by Trump over a 60 Minutes interview with former Vice President Kamala Harris that aired in October. We know all about that selectively edited video. They settled that lawsuit, many equating it to a bribe, Elizabeth Warren calling it a bribe. And then when Stephen Colbert was fired, they said that this could be another part of the bribery, helping to seal the thumbs up. What a weird way to word that. Helping to seal the thumbs up from the FCC by a 2-1 vote, were assurances from Skydance CEO David Ellison and investment partner Red Bird Capital of their commitment to unbiased journalism that represents diverse viewpoints. Skydance said it would appoint an ombudsman to evaluate complaints of editorial bias or other concerns about CBS in an effort to promote transparency and increased accountability. Paramount also eliminated its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives to align with the Trump administration's view that such affirmative action policies are discriminatory. Americans no longer trust the legacy national news media to report fully, accurately, and fairly, Carr wrote in a statement. It's time for a change. This is why I welcome Skydance's commitment to make significant changes at the once storied CBS broadcast network. He raises a great point there, Carr does. America no longer trusts the legacy national news media. Polling has shown that time and time again. I think viewership has proven that. And a lot of it has kind of been sped up because when you had 4 years of essentially no coverage, and I know Jake Tapper's tried to rewrite history to suggest that it was all the Biden administration's fault, but at the end of the day, the media did a huge disservice, the mainstream media, did a huge disservice to the American people, not reporting in any way, shape, or form on the president's cognitive decline. Now, fast forward to President Trump, and everything is focused on. Every little bit of minutia is a major scandal or story. So they did this to themselves. So will Skydance change that trajectory as CBS? I mean, I guess time will tell. I have my doubts because the nature of journalism and journalism school. You know, we always talk about education, higher education. Journalism school, and I've said this a million times, is teaching you to be the next Woodward and Bernstein at any cost, to bring down a sitting Republican president, to show your bias in a way that also hides your bias. So things like omitting stories like the Tulsi Gabbard bombshell, not highlighting those and focusing laser-like on, in this instance, the Epstein files, which we have a little bit about that a little bit later on. But media heiress Sherry Redstone, the controlling shareholder of Paramount Global, is set to receive $1.75 billion in cash once the deal closes, and she will exit the merged company's board of directors. The FCC's approval to transfer broadcast licenses for 28 owned and operated CBS television stations to the new owners comes a week after CBS canceled The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, calling it a purely financial decision. The top-rated late-night show had reportedly been losing roughly $40 million a year. And then, of course, we have Trump suing for originally $20 billion, and they figure it was around, what, $17 million that he receives financially, and then the rest to get to about 36, I think I've heard, a total, was, public service announcements, specialty programming. 36 million, there it is. With the new owner agreeing to spend $20 million in public service ads for pro-MAGA causes. Democrat FCC Commissioner Ana Gomez saying after months of cowardly capitulation to this administration, Paramount finally got what it wanted. Under the deal, Skydance, which had produced blockbuster hits Top Gun Maverick and Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning, and Jerry Cardinale's Redbird Capital will buy Redstone shares of National Amusements, Paramount's majority owner. Then Skydance will merge with Paramount to become Paramount Skydance Corp. It will be controlled by the Ellison family, but will remain publicly traded. So I expect to hear a lot about this in the mainstream media as they will continue to call the settling of that lawsuit essentially a bribe to get this $8.4 billion sale moving forward. Your thoughts on that? Just some breaking stories. We're just going through some quick stories. I have a lot of just updates, not necessarily from things we've brought up recently. Not a lot here about New York, but a few things worth mentioning. Yesterday we talked about Mike Lawler dropping out of the governor's race, well, never really entering, but saying he isn't going to run for governor, and how that leaves the door wide open if she chooses to take it for Elise Stefanik. Your thoughts on that? Now, it was unfortunately reported yesterday, and we talked about this with Joe Sempolinski on the program. It was reported, unfortunately, that she's thinking of waiting till after the November elections to make her decision. Now, the only thing you can say about that is that she does have more name recognition than Lee Zeldin did when Lee Zeldin first got in. Now, Lee Zeldin got in April of the off year. So she would be getting in essentially November of the off year, essentially. So
when you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
J.D. Power has ranked Nissan #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands. And to celebrate, you can now get in one of these award-winning SUVs with 0% APR for 60 months. The all-new turbocharged Nissan Murano, the rugged Nissan Pathfinder, and the best-selling Nissan Rogue. Visit Nissan today and drive away in an award-winning SUV.
Now get 0% APR for 60 months on select popular models or get a low $239 per month lease on Rogue.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back. I didn't mean to take a break in the middle of a sentence. I went to add a wave, and I hit the wrong button. Little technical glitch. Well. All right. So as we were mentioning, Elite Stefanik, your thoughts on that? Because I know we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but with Joe, there were so many other great questions that you sent in. I can't thank you enough. And if you missed the full interview, it is up on our Big Fox YouTube page, so you can check that all out, or if you just want to rewatch it. So speaking of the media, because we're talking about the FCC greenlighting the $8.4 billion sale of CBS Paramount to Skydance. Yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before, we happened to quote The View quite a bit for whatever reason. Well, President Trump said after some long rant that Joy Behar went on, the White House, I believe it was actually, said, well, maybe after Stephen Colbert, maybe The View's next. Well, first son, Don Jr., celebrated The View going on a hiatus this week, calling it a major win for humanity and common sense. Co-host Joy Behar announced on Thursday that the show will have one more episode before going on hiatus, admitting that changes will be coming. Before we go on hiatus, we only have one more show after this. I'm allowed to say that, right? Too late now, big joke. Before we go, I want to tell people that the tide is turning and things are changing. Later in the broadcast, co-host Whoopi Goldberg clarified by saying, okay, this is what's going on. We will see you all for another new show, and we'll be back for our new season in September. Oh, wow, so they're on quite a hiatus. In a statement released by the White House, it said, Joy Behar is an irrelevant loser suffering from a severe case of Trump derangement syndrome. It's no surprise that The View's ratings hit an all-time low last year. She should self-reflect on her own jealousy of President Trump's historic popularity before her show is the next to be pulled off the air. Don Jr. piling on, saying it's a major win for humanity and common sense. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr told Fox News, look, it's entirely possible that there's issues over there. And stepping back this broader dynamic, once President Trump has exposed these media gatekeepers and smashed this facade, there's a lot of consequences. I think the consequences of that aren't quite finished. I would also say the shows that didn't adapt, I'm not saying completely changed, but the shows like Stephen Colbert that just became nothing but anti-Trump, it lost them advertisers, it lost them ratings in many instances, because it wasn't reflective of what the American people represent, the landslide victory in November. So I think a lot of these shows who didn't, I'm not saying completely adapt, that all of a sudden they went anti-Trump one day and pro-Trump the next, but maybe not focus the whole show on this kind of anti-Trump hatred like Stephen Colbert. I mean, where else would you tune in after a hard day of work and watch Adam Schiff on what is supposed to be a comedy show? Just something to keep in mind. Also, since we're talking to the media, I thought I'd just mention this. You know, Caitlin Collins, the CNN anchor and, combatant, if you will, of the Trump administration. Man, Meghan McCain, who used to be on The View, called her out and suggested pull her credentials. McCain was responding to Collins' question to Carolyn Levitt about President Trump's view of Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, who earlier that day announced that the Obama administration manufactured the Russian collusion hoax. What would you say to people who believe that you're only releasing these documents now to improve your standing with the president after he said that your intelligence assessments were wrong? Collins asked. This is what McCain tweeted out. Caitlin Collins is an absolute imbecile and a pure partisan hack. Have some respect for the two women standing in front of you who are exposing lies, deep corruption, and keeping the country safe. The White House should pull her credentials. Now, as you know, Caitlin Collins is kind of liking being that attack dog of the Trump administration. Again, this was not happening during the Biden administration, and I think that's why so many of these outlets have lost credibility, because people said, where was this kind of attention with Biden after, basically without that coverage, it led in many ways to a Trump presidency. I think Trump would have won anyway, whether Biden continued to run or they would have had a better candidate, a better, quote unquote, better candidate like a Gavin Newsom or someone different than Harris. I think Trump would have still won, but I think by not covering Biden, they put themselves in a position that forced it to be Kamala Harris, and look what happened. But now the media and others are trying to rewrite history to pretend that they weren't responsible, that it was people within the White House, or it was the Otto Pen people, as they're being affectionately called. Now, let's see here. I don't even know how to segue most of this stuff this morning. We just have so much to cover. Here's something, and this may disappoint some of you. RNC Chair Michael Whately is expected to run for Senate in North Carolina, because now Laura Trump has opted out yet again for a Senate run, which is interesting. What does Trump joke that she's had the most opportunities to be senator, perhaps in history, and never takes it? Republican National Committee Chair Michael Whately intends to run for Senate in North Carolina and would have the White House's full support. A source familiar with the matter told NBC News. President Donald Trump's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, who is considered a top potential contender, also announced Thursday morning that she would not run for the seat. After much consideration and heartfelt discussions with my family, friends, and supporters, I've decided not to pursue the United States Senate seat in North Carolina at this time. I'm deeply grateful for the encouragement and support I've received from the people of my home state, whom I love so much. Whatley's expected run comes after Senator Thom Tillis unexpectedly announced late last month that he would not seek re-election, making the race to fill the seat one to watch in the 2026 midterms. The RNC chair's decision was first reported by Politico. An RNC spokesperson did not immediately provide a comment. So Laura Trump, again, opting out of running for a Senate seat, and now it looks like it'll be the RNC chair, Michael Whately, who will be running in North Carolina. Also, as an update from yesterday's program, how am I doing on time? Boy, we're moving fast this morning. I can tell already. But Alina Habba, Trump's pick and New Jersey attorney. Let's take a step back. I told you this story yesterday, but Alina Habba, President Trump's pick to serve as New Jersey U.S. Attorney, will continue to serve as the Garden State's top prosecutor, despite a panel of judges rejecting her from the post. Habba wrote on Twitter, Donald J. Trump is the 47th president. Pam Bondi is the Attorney General, and I am now the acting United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey. I don't cower to pressure. I don't answer to politics. This is a fight for justice, and I'm all in. Now, Habba's stint as New Jersey interim U.S. Attorney was set to expire today. She was tapped for the temporary role by Trump in March, pending permanent approval, and had 120 days to serve as U.S. Attorney in an interim capacity. The Garden State's 17 federal judges, mainly appointed by President Barack Obama and Joe Biden, opted against extending Habba's tenure earlier this week and announced the appointment of First Assistant U.S. Attorney in New Jersey, Desiree Lee Grace, to lead the office. Grace was subsequently fired by Attorney General Pam Bondi, who said the DOJ would not tolerate rogue judges. A DOJ official explained to multiple outlets Thursday that Trump withdrew Habba's nomination to be the state's U.S. Attorney and that she was appointed First Assistant U.S. Attorney, replacing Grace and allowing Habba to become acting U.S. Attorney of New Jersey. Habba was Trump's one-time personal attorney, had been blocked from receiving a Senate confirmation hearing by some Democrats in the upper chamber, leaving an extension of her interim status by the state judges or Thursday's workaround as the only options for her to remain in New Jersey's top prosecutor. So that's an update from yesterday. I know we're covering a lot. Feel free to weigh in on any of these. Jump in on any of them. We do have to take a short break. We're going to talk a little bit about Epstein this morning. I do have quite a bit of, it's not a lot about New York, as has been the case lately, but there are a few New York issues to get to. It's that time of year where some of the political stories run a little dry in July, but we'll get to as many of these topics as we can. Maybe there is a tie-in with New York and Stephen Colbert, because that's where he broadcasts. We may talk about Stephen Colbert, but I feel like that we went to the well enough on that. I can't imagine. I mean, again, they say he's number one in late night, but the fact of the matter is Gutfeld beats him hands down, but for some reason they don't count Gutfeld. It's one of those little anomalies. Surprise, surprise. All right, stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Hey, this is John with John's Tree Service. Spring is here and summer is coming. Do you have a tree in your backyard that just doesn't look nice? Kind of makes your property look a little rough? John's Tree Service. Licensed, insured, locally owned, and rated A+ with the Better Business Bureau. Do you have a monster tree in your backyard? Is there no access to it? Can it not be climbed? Is it too dead? We can put our crane and reach over your house and pull that tree down. Do it in a safe manner. Coming to a neighborhood near you to service all your tree needs. Call today at 607-377-6513.
Here I am, field trip chaperone.
Before preventing migraine with Qulipta, it was hard keeping plans.
And look at me now.
You'll never truly forget migraine, but Qulipta reduces attacks, making more zero migraine days possible.
Don't take if allergic. Stop taking and get help right away for allergic reactions like trouble breathing, face, lip, or tongue swelling, itching, or rash. Tell your doctor about increased blood pressure or color changes, pain, or numbness in fingers or toes.
Learn how AbbVie can help you save.
Qulipta, the forget you get migraine medicine.
Flavors that feed your fancy.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oreo Thins. Stay playful.
When you're running, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Oh no! The wind. I need to reboot the roof cam. But we thank Boss Security for bringing us the roof cam. I forgot to reboot it this morning. That's my fault. Covers it 24/7, and sometimes it just needs, like all of us, a little bit of downtime. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson's studio. Here is a name that you may have wanted to forget, but former Representative George Santos posted a theatrical farewell on social media last night, just hours before he was to begin serving a federal prison sentence for fraud and identity theft. He wrote on Twitter, "Well, darlings, the curtain falls, the spotlight dims, and the rhinestones are packed. From the halls of Congress to the chaos of cable news, what a ride it's been. Was it messy? Always. Glamorous? Occasionally. Honest? I tried most days. To my supporters, you made this wild political cabaret worth it. To my critics, thanks for the free press." Pretty over the top there. The former New York congressman is expected to report to federal custody Friday to begin serving an 87-month sentence, just over 7 years, after pleading guilty in 2024 to wire fraud and aggravated identity theft. They were saying that he was hoping, pleading in a way for a Trump pardon. He was given the maximum sentence in April by U.S. District Judge Joanne Sabert. He was also ordered to pay nearly $374,000 in restitution and forfeit more than $205,000 in fraud proceedings. The guilty plea follows a sweeping investigation into campaign finance fraud, donor identity theft, and false COVID-era unemployment claims. So he begins his 87-month prison sentence. I would assume he's already in prison, or at least getting all his paperwork filled out. We're not going to go through everything that he did and all the reasons he was found guilty. That was quite a story for quite some time, wasn't it? George Santos. So bidding a dramatic farewell. Before we talk about Epstein, how am I doing? Good. Elon Musk yesterday warning of potential rough times ahead for Tesla. Shares in Tesla were down in pre-market trading as the car maker lays out the risks from President Trump's tariffs and his scrapping of tax credits. Also, let's face it, Elon Musk, whether it's through the creation of his third party, which we haven't heard a lot more about, have we? But the third party, or with his time with Trump, or whatever the case, he has, stockholders are not too happy with him. Investors are not too happy with him. some on Wall Street are concerned growth in its core business looks rocky. The company's problems resemble those of traditional car makers, which typically have much smaller market valuation. General Motors. Tesla warned of the hit from a sustained uncertain macroeconomic environment resulting from shifting tariffs, unclear impacts from changes to fiscal policy, and political sentiment. There are other factors too. Competition from Chinese rivals is fierce, EV demand is softening in key markets, and tax credits for American buyers of these vehicles will end as the Trump administration continues its assault on green transportation. Wow, you can tell this is from the New York Times. Assault on green transportation. The company reported $22.5 billion in sales in the second quarter, below what they had estimated. The amount is a 12% drop from the same period last year. Revenue from its highly profitable business of selling regulatory credits fell 51% to $439 million in the second quarter. Expectations were already low, but its slump of declining profits extending back to the third quarter of last year has investors on edge. They fear that Musk's bet on self-driving taxis and autonomous driving could distract him from growing the car business. There was a lot of uncomfortable realism mixed in with futurism, Steve Socknick said. A lot rests on the robo-taxi, the self-driving taxi service, which began last month in Austin in a limited capacity, has roused investors who see it as a potentially huge business. Musk's emphasized Tesla's plan to expand the service elsewhere in the country this year, but not everybody is sold. There wasn't enough there to excite. And of course, the politics isn't helping. Even with or because of Musk being on the outs with President Trump, protesters appear bent on disrupting the tech mogul's business empire. And the Republican policy bill, which will scrap at the end of September the lucrative federal tax credit that has helped bolster overall EV sales. Musk initially played down the effect of its business, but analysts estimate the credit's removal could cost Tesla as much as $1 billion in annual profit. We are in this transition period where we will lose a lot of incentives in the U.S., Musk conceded. But there's a silver lining. Losing the tax credit could accelerate efforts to bring forward a low-cost model to better compete with the likes of China's BYD. Tesla said that production started last month, and the model would begin sales later this year. So Musk warning of potential rough times ahead. All right, we're going to talk about Epstein. I got some great news, though, before that. We got a Climate Fact Friday from Bob coming up here in just a little bit. We'll probably save that for the last break. So get your comments, everybody get your comments in for the last break of hour number 1. I did want to mention this because we have just a second here. William Jacobson and Kimberly Kay have a piece, and we've been talking so much about academia. And again, it's one of those kind of Fridays where I'm not even going to try to segue from story to story. It's almost impossible because we've covered so much already. Just 45 minutes in and think of how much we've covered. Thank you for those who wrote in their tributes to Hulk Hogan, just like they did with Ozzy Osbourne and others. Hulk Hogan, what did you think? I know we talked about it at the time. It was a rousing RNC speech. Surprising news coming out yesterday that he passed away at the age of 71. And I know it's to a lot of people, he was an icon. I didn't talk to anybody personally, but I knew friends of a friend kind of thing who went to the signing that he had in Rochester, where if you bought I think it was a case or a 12-pack of his new beer, he would sign the case for you. I think it might have been called Real American Beer. I should have looked that up during break. But he was doing a lot for Trump and Vance. He was a big fan with that speech and just some of the things he was doing in general. So sad note there. And as I mentioned at the top of the hour, Trump and Vance both paying tribute to him. But we've been talking about the education system, and there's so much we can dissect. The anti-Semitism, just the complete bias on college campuses, the hatred of conservative values. Now, there's been some major blows at Columbia with that lawsuit, $200 million lawsuit that we talked about yesterday. The students at Columbia finally being punished for their disruptive attack on the Butler Library during exam time. But are American graduate schools still American, they ask? That's what President Donald Trump is asking as he takes action against Harvard University and its large international student population. His effort to restrict Harvard's foreign student visas seeks to address a growing problem in higher education. Many of our most renowned graduate schools are overwhelmingly non-American. On Wednesday, Columbia University capitulated on the issue, agreeing in its deal with Trump to take steps to decrease financial dependence on international student enrollment. The Ivy also promised to probe international student applicants on their reasons for wishing to study in the U.S. In other words, to keep out the sneaky saboteurs coming here to wreak havoc. Significantly, Columbia's decision signals to other top-tier schools, Harvard in particular, that it's not worth fighting the administration over international graduate student enrollment. And that is welcome news indeed. We support international education exchange, as most Americans do. The problem is disproportionality. A huge influx of foreign students has changed the character of traditionally American institutes, leaving American students increasingly crowded out and even making them targets of prejudice and discrimination. The numbers speak for themselves. During 2023-2024 academic year, the United States hosted 1.1 million international students, a sharp 7% increase from the year prior. Nearly half of them, 500,000 plus, were graduate students. International, well, we don't have to go through each individual one, but only intense pressure from Trump forced Columbia to confront the truth. But the problem is not just campus culture. There's strong evidence that international enrollment is shutting American students, particularly minorities, out of opportunities. Harvard Kennedy School saw a 50% drop in black or African American enrollment in 2023 compared to 2021. So what this all boils down to, just to kind of tie this all in with what we've been talking about all week, Trump's effort to force schools to address the problem is a step in the right direction. And the Columbia deal shows academia that ignoring it is no longer an option. We love international students, but we also love the American character of our American universities and don't want to see that lost. All right. On that note, we're running just a little bit late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Trust your smile to Dr. Hench's at either Watkins Glen, Elmira, Horseheads, or Elkland Family Dentistry. All 4 locations provide cutting-edge technology to make sure your visit is comfortable and stress-free. Dr. Hench's offers treatment in all areas of dentistry, including same-day crowns, implants, root canals, oral surgery, and treatment for all ages. For the best dental care in the region, trust Dr. Hench's and his staff at Watkins Glen, Horseheads, Elmira, and Elkland Family Dentistry. Call any one of his offices today or visit them online for more information.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Make this the summer event with Employee Pricing Plus at Chilson Wilcox Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram.
Get this 2024 Grand Cherokee 4xe price to go and save over $13,000.
Chilson Wilcox, selling cars a different way, the right way.
Attention, Elmiron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmiron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmiron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmiron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. As I mentioned, we have a Climate Fact Friday from Bob coming up in the last segment of hour number 1. So get your comments in as well. So we'll make that last segment perhaps just all comments from viewers. All right, we can talk Epstein if you would like. The DOJ had what they called a productive meeting with Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell. They met for about 5 hours yesterday, answering every question in a very productive day, it says, according to Maxwell's attorney. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said he would continue interviewing Maxwell today. The meeting in a federal courthouse in downtown Tallahassee, not far from the low-security federal prison where Maxwell is serving a 20-year sentence for sex trafficking, comes as the Trump administration is trying to mitigate the political fallout over its handling of the case. Attorney David Oscar Marcus declined to tell reporters afterwards what Blanche asked Maxwell or what she answered. He took a full day and asked a lot of questions. She answered all the questions truthfully, honestly, and to the best of her ability. Blanche said this week that he sought a meeting with Maxwell to discuss anyone else who had committed crimes against victims. It's not immediately clear how the Justice Department will use information Maxwell provided for the meeting. I know that she is going before Congress before that hearing. I think the date is August the 11th. Blanche said the Department of Justice will share additional information about what we learned at the appropriate time. Now, the media is having a field day with this, and Democrat politicians, as we had predicted, it wasn't much of a prediction on this program, but when we started seeing Hakeem Jeffries, and the most glaring example is Nancy Pelosi saying it's all a distraction from the disaster of the big, beautiful bill, and then someone got in her ear, and an hour later she said it's the most important thing in the world, release those files. Now it is being reported, I believe this also by the Wall Street Journal. Was it the Wall Street Journal or New York Times? It sometimes gets cut off, and I apologize. No, New York Times. That they're saying that the DOJ, the single goal was in mind to find something, anything that could be released to the public to satisfy Trump supporters. The FBI and the Justice Department made an all-out push involving hundreds of employees to scour the Jeffrey Epstein files with a single goal in mind: find something, anything that could be released to the public to satisfy the mounting clamor from the angry legions of Trump supporters. Now, I know there are a lot of Trump supporters in this audience. Listen, I know there's a lot of you who may have wanted to have the Epstein files released, but was there a major clamor amongst the Trump supporters that you knew all this time? Out of curiosity, it's not a rhetorical question, but it's also not a loaded question. But after devoting countless hours on the project, working at times around the clock, searching databases, hard drives, network drives, cabinets, desks, and closets, the Bureau and the Department finally acknowledged this month that they had little to show for their efforts. They came to realize, for instance, that there was no specific client list, which previous investigators had known years ago. Those conclusions, announced in a memo earlier this month and then repeated this week in a statement by a Justice Department official, capped a scramble to sort more than 100,000 pages of materials related to Epstein. During the inquiry, Justice Department officials diverted hundreds of FBI employees and federal prosecutors from their regular duties to go through the documents at least 4 times, including once to flag any reference to Mr. Trump and other prominent figures. Now, that's one that they have been pushing now nearly all week, is that Trump was informed that his name showed up in some of these files. And now they are suggesting there is the kind of the conspiracy that he now wants it silenced and wants everyone to move on. He has said so. Is that the reason why? Do you accept the Wall Street Journal on that? The Bureau's own expert document reviewers raised concerns at one point that the investigation was not only being rushed, but could also violate laws and internal protocols put in place to protect against sensitive information about witnesses, child victims, and grand jury material from being released. Details of the review were based on accounts by 3 former FBI and Justice Department officials who spoke, you guessed it, on the condition of anonymity. The New York Times also obtained a summary of the process as described by one senior Bureau official to the Senate Judiciary Committee. All right. We're going to tell you a little bit more. As they say, the crisis intensifies. But we got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Seneca Lake offers you breathtaking views, gorgeous waterfalls, award-winning wine, guided kayak tours, boating options, great places to dine, and so much more. Your experience awaits you. Come experience Seneca Lake.
8 p.m. somewhere. Do you know where your kids are online?
Fly, you have the freedom to choose from 7 great brands only here at Blaze Alexander Family Dealerships in Mansfield. The Ford Summer Sales Event is here with rates as low as 0% on 2025 Ford F-150s. Enjoy over $7,000 off MSRP on select new 2025 Ram 2500s with Make This the Summer Sales Event. And don't miss the Chevy Drives America Sales Event where you can enjoy up to $10,000 in tax credits. Save some green off Route 15 in Mansfield where we're taking the deals the other guys won't.
Your Big Fox, WYDC TV, Elmira Corning.
If you have one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call.
We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's go to viewer comments to wrap up our number one viewer comment section of our program, brought to you by Steuben Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to age at home. And it's time for a Climate Fact Friday from Bob. Thank you, Bob, and good morning to you as well. Let's talk GDP and greenhouse gases. China is the largest producer of greenhouse gases. The U.S. is second. The U.S. GDP is $30.5 trillion. China's GDP is $19.2 trillion. The U.S. GDP per capita, per person, is $89,105, while China's is $12,614. We far outproduce China and most all other countries in the world. My point is, we do so much more with less pollution than all other countries. We burn the coal in an environmentally safe way as possible. We use our natural gas in safe and responsible ways. Are we not doing enough for the world's clean energy efforts? We sell China 11.6 million tons of coal each year. Then China sells the U.S. solar panels that are not as efficient as our coal. Why don't we just burn the coal here instead? We ship the coal to ports and onto ships that are using fossil fuels, and we transport solar panels back, again, using a lot of gallons of fossil fuel. Seems just counterproductive to me. Have a great weekend and be safe. Thank you, Bob. I agree. That I like your point there. I would agree with you that it does seem counterproductive. I would also say, it's interesting with the solar panels because we've had reports recently, at a time when a lot of weird utilities are being hacked into, where you hear some small towns sewage system hacked into, or all of these solar panels having this extra piece in there that wasn't in the original plans to, again, perhaps disrupt our power grids. So there's the national security issue to it as well. So I think you raise a very good point, Bob, and I'm glad that we could end our number one with our Climate Fact Friday from Bob. All right, our number two, mere moments away. We still have a few things here to talk about Epstein. We don't have to talk about Epstein. We could talk about whatever it is that you would like to talk about. So feel free to weigh in on all this that we've discussed so far and more. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
My moderate to severe Crohn's symptoms kept me out of the picture. With Skyrizi, feel symptom relief at 4 weeks. Many people were in remission at 12 weeks, at 1 year, and even at 3 years.
Don't use if allergic. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines. Liver problems leading to hospitalization may occur when treated for Crohn's.
Ask your gastroenterologist about Skyrizi.
An Albany buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized and a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and Horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
Day one of the National Glider Competition. Severe flooding has caused major disruptions in parts of Steuben County.
Throughout the year, prison reform has become a priority around New York State.
Hard to believe, but it's our number 2 already. Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. And let's kick off our number 2 with some viewer comments brought to you by Steuben Senior Services Fund. This viewer writes in, originally Trump didn't want it released, meaning the Epstein files, because there was left-installed hoax information in it. When feds raided Trump's Florida residence, I'm betting they were looking for Epstein documents. Fortunately, I'm thinking since Trump is bringing out the untainted documents now, Dems have flipped and don't want it released. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. It's too bad that the hate show with Stephen Colbert couldn't get subsidized like Big Bird. Now who will remind the 1130 listeners to hate Trump? Trump is even making late night television great again. Well, I wasn't going to jump to Stephen Colbert, but you raised a good point. Did you know back, when was it? 2014. Then governor, now disgraced former governor and mayoral candidate, Andrew Cuomo, his administration put together a package of tax breaks to keep the Late Show in New York. Because after Letterman retired, there was talks that it could move. You and I, the New York taxpayer, gave them $15 million to stay in New York. Now the Gothamist writes, the money's long been spent with no mechanism to claw it back. Some state lawmakers aren't happy about it. Well, that's the problem with giving them money. Yes, in 2014, so you got 10 years, a little over 10 years off of your $15 million. Sorry. The money, it says here, Assembly member Tony Simone, a Midtown Democrat, said, why would we give them tax money if they're going to close up shop here? Simone's district includes the Ed Sullivan Theater on Broadway, which the Late Show has called home for more than 3 decades. Well, here's the problem. They received about $15 million 10 years ago. The show was losing $40 million. So I'm not sure why. And I know this assembly person trying to get some media attention on this and got some. But at the end of the day, be realistic about it. That money was going to be long spent. It wasn't like you can claw it back 11 years later. The grant was for extensive renovations to the famed theater as Colbert took over. The tax breaks, meanwhile, were through the state's Excelsior Jobs program, which covers a portion of employees' salaries when a company creates jobs and invests in New York operations. CBS spent the grant as the state intended, overhauling the theater ahead of Colbert's arrival, and the state paid out the Excelsior tax break incrementally as the Late Show maintained upwards of 200 jobs. The money came at a time when New York decided to spend big on late-night TV franchises. You remember that? And we've talked about this with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, the Saturday Night Live, the Starster program, live from New York. They get subsidies. But again, when they're losing nearly $40 million a year on their number 1 rated late-night show, let's face it, that $15 million of taxpayer dollars just a drop in the bucket. But since you mentioned Stephen Colbert, it had become a haven for left-wing politicians and journalists. We knew this, but according to IMDb search results, CNN anchor and 60 Minutes correspondent Anderson Cooper holds the record with 20 formal guest appearances on The Late Show. Other journalists and hosts who were the top Late Show guests included Jake Tapper with 12 appearances, the Obama brothers from Pod Save America with 11, MSNBC's Chris Hayes with 10, Rachel Maddow and Whoopi Goldberg with 8 apiece. He also rolled out the red carpet for CBS colleagues in the news division. That's not really a surprise. That's kind of typical to cross-promote. Then it says, I was trying to see if they had the numbers here on politicians. Joe Scarborough had been there, Mika Brzezinski, both 4 appearances, as Joy Reid. I mean, listen to this who's who of far-left guests. Brian Stetler, Jim Acosta, Don Lemon, Chris Cuomo, Katie Tur, Caitlin Collins, Abby Phillips, Laura Coates, Van Jones, Donnie Deutsch, Audie Cornish, Chris Matthews. You get the idea. Another reason why, when people, at the end of the day, do they really want to sit back and relax and watch Adam Schiff or Elizabeth Warren lecture them? But we learned from the episode of The View that it was the beginning of the end of democracy. I'm paraphrasing, but Sonny Hoyston saying it was something to that extent, the beginning of the end, that it was the dismantling, I think was maybe the term she used, of democracy and the Constitution, because Stephen Colbert's show is going away. Rosie O'Donnell attacked Trump on the cancellation of The Late Show. We're on the precipice of full-blown fascism in the United States, she asserted. She called Colbert courageous and brave and one of the most brilliant minds we've ever had in comedy, before going on that fear-mongering rant. Now, we know they have said time and time again that it was a purely financial decision. O'Donnell, meanwhile, claimed without evidence that CBS had given in to blackmail before proceeding to fearmonger with regards to other shows and TV hosts. How long does 60 Minutes have now? How long does Jon Stewart have? She then referred to President Trump as a madman who is spiraling out of control, adding he's horrible, and I just hope that Stephen Colbert goes on YouTube where he has no corporate bosses. I think Americans should stand up and say, no way, you're not going to silence us. You don't have the right to silence us. You never did, and you never will. We, the people, have the right to speak up against atrocities, which are happening on a daily basis. Bizarrely suggesting that free speech rights have been stripped away from Americans, which is patently false. He's gonna arrest every artist that disagrees with him, O'Donnell said. We must take to the streets, and we must not go home until he's done, which is ironic because did she move? Isn't she in Ireland? We're on the precipice. Oh, let me take a step back. I also think, well, comparing him to a fascist dictator, I think that rhetoric is what many people have said led to the 2 assassination attempts. But I'll continue. We're on the precipice of full-blown fascism in the United States. We're the majority no matter what they say. Okay, yeah, there's been a few people, Kathy Griffin, doing the same, suggesting that the election was stolen in some way. This is our country, not Donald Trump's, even though, ironically, she is living in Ireland. All right, back to just quickly on Epstein. I'm going to go through this really quick, okay? According to Politico, the crisis is only going to intensify, is the belief of Republicans. House Republicans are furious. The Dems caught them flat-footed this week, and they expect the attacks to continue after recess. Internal fury over the Epstein crisis is still swirling as Trump faces an all-out revolt from his biggest supporters on Capitol Hill. The rebellion this week stunned White House officials and GOP leaders, and according to Republicans involved in the talks, it currently set to continue the moment they return from August recess. Even as members hightailed out of town Wednesday, several Oversight Committee Republicans joined with Democrats to force a subpoena to the Department of Justice for its entire trove of Epstein documents. People are going to move on this regardless, the Republicans said. This bill is going to come due. Democrats smelled blood in the water, and they caught us flat-footed. Yeah, I mean, the problem here is why not release it the last 4 years? Why not release it? If all of a sudden the Democrats care, why not before? Anger inside the conference, and this is a different piece, but also from Politico. Anger inside the conference over Epstein went beyond what was on display publicly. The lawmakers knew that bucking their own leadership was an extreme response, but panel Republicans were incensed that a week later they were all but forced to vote against a Democrat effort calling for the release of the information. Many, including Houghton, were under intense pressure from constituents to support the unsealing, and they wanted leaders to provide more political cover. Hours later, Johnson and senior Republicans decided to shut down the Rules Committee altogether, which meant foregoing votes on 2 key immigration bills before lawmakers left for a month-long August recess. After some back and forth, leaders also scrapped votes scheduled for Thursday and sent members home a day early. The Speaker later defended his strategy, saying House Republicans were refusing to play Democrats' political games over the deceased financier. One Rules Committee Republican, Chip Roy, suggested Johnson had bought himself some time for now. I think the administration will put more stuff out in August. If they don't, then I promise you there's going to be some more looking at this the first week of September. So not going away. On Thursday, Tim Burkett, obviously the Republican from Tennessee, was asked by Casey Hunt, what do you make of the fact that the government had this meeting with Maxwell today? Is the Trump administration handling this the right way? Burkett said, I don't think this thing's been handled the right way from the very beginning. The Biden administration had it for 4 years. They didn't do anything. Now politics is in it. Everybody's pointing fingers. We're never going to get to the bottom of this thing. This town covets its lies, and they take a lot of pride in them. You know, we're not. Honestly, any information that comes out now, I think it could. It's always going to have to stand the test of being tainted. But I would, as I've talked to some attorneys, if Miss Maxwell were to perjure herself and she were to cut some deal, I don't know if that's even in the realm of possibility. But if she were to, she would immediately go back to her original sentence. But again, my biggest fear is that this is the innocent folks, the thousands of or so innocent young ladies who are now adults, I assume, that were raped, and people that just flew on the planes unexpectedly. They didn't have any clue that Epstein was the dirtbag that he was. So there's a lot of things I have a lot of concerns about. And it's kind of interesting that you said that, because I said similar on this program yesterday about the person that rode along and had no idea and wanted no part in it, just thought there's a free vacation involved with friends, right? A former top Biden White House official is actually blaming Merrick Garland for his failure to look into the Epstein files. Nari Tandon, a senior advisor to Joe Biden, who became director of the White House Domestic Policy Council, threw Merrick Garland under the bus when asked why didn't the Biden administration do anything on the so-called Epstein files. Tandon responded, anytime I say anything about Epstein, they're like, why didn't Joe Biden release the files? And this is what I'll say. Have you met Merrick Garland? The Joe Biden White House had nothing to do with enforcement on any topic, charging that because of the abuses of the Trump administration, the White House didn't engage in any particular enforcement matters. We barely did engage on policy with the Department of Justice. They were so arm's length to us. She claimed that the White House had no idea that what, if anything, Garland was doing related to the Epstein files, but that she believes the former Attorney General couldn't tolerate being potentially viewed as biased if he were open more criminal cases related to Epstein's underage sex trafficking endeavors. So blaming Merrick Garland. All right. We got more to talk about. I'm getting away from that, but if you want to continue to talk about it, I'm more than happy to take your comments or read your comments, and we'll get to those when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmaron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmaron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmaron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmaron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
When you're on, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Dear unbreakable spirit, when the terrain is gnarly, you steady us. When obstacles are ahead, you lift us. When the turf is hostile, you inspire us. Own a legend. Toyota Trucks.
Get Independence Day savings all month long. Lease Tacoma for $279 a month or get 1.99% APR financing on Tundra. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota. Let's go places.
Confidence isn't given. It's built. One choice, one moment, one step at a time. How you feel is how you play. It starts with a click. Invisalign.
We've had so many wonderful memories as a family. Dropping Shelly off at school, I prayed he wouldn't get stuffed in a gym bag. Missy might have been the one in Little League.
I'm asking the Lord to watch over my little girl. Well, while you're at it, ask him for a win. I got money on this.
But Georgie is the one who threw us the real curveball.
I got a girl pregnant.
Oh, no. Are you kidding me? We may not be perfect, but to me, we have the perfect family.
We are back, frankly speaking, broadcasting right here on WYDC TV, Big Fox, live from the Hesselson's studio. We got a lot of comments coming in. Thank you for that. Let's get right to them during the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program where we read viewer comments. Mark writes in, U.S. and Israel left the Hamas peace talks as they said Hamas was not showing good faith. I saw that. Very interesting. Not a good sign, but Hamas was not negotiating in good faith. So thank you for that, Mark. Comment from a different viewer. As opposed to The View, I think it's the beginning of enlightenment, i.e. America's now, as a result of the Trump administration's transparency, understanding just how corrupt our government has become. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Nice to listen to Frankly Speaking while sipping coffee and building things in my shop this morning. Well, thank you very much. That's kind of you to say. Enjoy your time in the shop. And then Ken writes in, Ghislaine Maxwell, a woman that helps traffic young girls, is now spending 20 years in a minimum security prison for her efforts. Is being interviewed to get to the truth on the Epstein client list. I assume that there is some kind of a deal on the table as she cooperates with the Justice Department. I might be delusional, but in what world does anyone think that she will be telling the truth? And how would anyone know if she is? Regardless of what she says, there will be one side saying, see, we told you they were involved, and the other side will be saying, see, we told you they weren't involved. This is just another effort that the only real outcome is that the taxpayers will spend a boatload of money and receive nothing. Yes, and drag this story out for even longer. I would agree. By the way, on a different story that the media has essentially refused to cover, Attorney General Pam Bondi is forming a strike force to investigate the disclosures from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence that raises allegations that the Obama administration manufactured an intelligence assessment in 2017 promoting the Russian collusion hoax. The Department of Justice announced the formation of the strike force Wednesday. The strike force will assess the evidence publicized by Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and investigate potential next legal steps which might stem from DNI Gabbard's disclosures. Bondi calls the disclosure from Gabbard's office troubling in a statement. The Department of Justice is proud to work with my friend Director Gabbard, we are grateful for her partnership in delivering accountability for the American people. We will investigate these troubling disclosures fully and leave no stone unturned to deliver justice. On Friday, the Office of Director of National Intelligence released a report it said showed overwhelming evidence that demonstrates how, after President Trump won the 2016 election against Hillary Clinton, President Obama and his National Security Cabinet members manufactured and politicized intelligence to lay the groundwork for what was essentially a years-long coup against President Trump. Greg Jarrett writes at Fox News, lies and lying people comprise the sorry epitaph of Barack Obama's presidency. I'm not sure if I said that right. The big lie was the then candidate Donald Trump colluded with Russia to fix the 2016 presidential election. It derived from a phony dossier commissioned and financed by former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and Obama's national security team happily peddled to destroy his successor. It begat an even bigger whopper that Putin and the Russian government developed a clear preference for President-elect Trump and inspired to help his election chances. This notorious deceit was inserted in the official intelligence community assessment that was ordered by Obama himself and conjured up by his CIA director, John Brennan. The bogus dossier was exploited to justify the ICA. Conversely, the ICA was used to legitimize the dossier. The circular faux verification was a clever ruse, and it worked splendidly. When both documents were leaked to the gullible Trump-hating media, journalists adopted them without question as sacred gospel from the holy book of Obama. The Russian hoax took off like a rocket. It crash-landed Wednesday when Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, accused Obama, Brennan, and others of engineering this false intelligence. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it was true, and it wasn't. Newly declassified documents show that a December 8, 2016 draft of Obama's presidential daily briefing debunked the notion of Russian electoral meddling to help Trump. But wait, that was problematic because it did not conform to the preferred narrative of Trump-Russia collusion. So FBI Director James Comey and his cohorts reportedly scuttled it. That way, Trump, as president-elect, could not be briefed on its content. The next day, Obama convened a highly confidential meeting at the White House. The president ordered his intelligence cronies to expedite a new ICA that would reverse the PDP's conclusion and energize the collusion fiction. With his marching orders in hand, Brennan immediately went to work. Now, I know this gets really far in the weeds, folks, but it is so important. And because it's so far in the weeds, it gives the media yet another excuse not to report on it. Now, Obama denies any wrongdoing, but he should thank Trump for winning the recent landmark Supreme Court decision that provides all presidents with immunity. Ironically, the former president can now hide behind his broad protections. However, no such shield extends to others involved. It is folly to predict at this stage what prosecution, if any, the future holds, but the stain of corruption is already embedded in Obama's presidency. Clapper has now lawyered up due to the new scrutiny. Speaking with Caitlin Collins, Clapper said he'd already taken precautions. Well, I'll lawyer up, I suppose. I already have. David Harsani said Tulsi Gabbard contends that the new declassified documents show former President Obama engaged in the plot to create the lie that Trump had conspired with Russia to steal the 2016 presidential election. Of course he did. We have known for years that in July 2016, John Brennan briefed Obama on Clinton's presidential campaign had sought to vilify Trump by accusing him of collaborating with Putin. We already know that despite having the information in hand, Obama withheld intelligence about Russia from the Trump transition team and ordered agencies to compile an assessment of the situation. Now, typically, such an assessment, which brings together intelligence at the highest level, takes months to gather and analyze. This report, however, was cobbled together in just a few weeks so that the Obama administration could control not only the content, but the messaging before the Trump administration began. It is utterly implausible that Obama did not know that potentially evidence regarding Clinton's role in spreading the Russian collusion hoax was omitted. It is certainly worth asking him, in any event, a response report even suggesting the president-elect's campaign may have been involved in a serious plot should have been undertaken with extra special care. But we get to the bottom line on this because we have so much more to get to as well. It has long been clear that everyone involved in the Russia hoax abused their position. But indicting a CIA director for, say, excluding certain information from an assessment report would be difficult, if such an action were illegal at all, which seems questionable. None of that is to contend that Obama and his underlings weren't in on the plot, or that we shouldn't find out the truth, but it will have to be written in the historic record. But that's important, too. So Obama's dirty trick destroyed a presidency and our trust. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk some New York State issues and a lot of other issues to get to as well. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
It's time to say not so fast chronic kidney disease. Because with a progressive disease like CKD, slow is good. And believe me, I know all about slow. That's why I'm here to tell you about Jardiance. It's a little pill proven to slow the progression of CKD and reduce the risk of kidney failure, which can lead to dialysis.
Serious side effects include increased ketones in blood or urine, which can be fatal. Stop Jardiance and call your doctor right away if you have nausea, vomiting, stomach pain, tiredness, trouble breathing, or increased ketones. Jardiance may cause dehydration that can suddenly worsen kidney function and make you feel dizzy, lightheaded, or weak upon standing. Genital yeast infections in men and women, urinary tract infections, low blood sugar, or a rare life-threatening bacterial infection between and around the anus and genitals can occur. Call your doctor right away if you have fever or feel weak or tired and pain, tenderness, swelling, or redness in the genital area. Don't use if allergic to Jardiance. Stop use if you have a serious allergic reaction. Call your doctor if you have rash, swelling, difficulty breathing, or swallowing. You may have increased risk for lower limb loss. Call your doctor right away if you have new pain or tenderness, sores, ulcers, or infection in your legs or feet.
So go on, say not so fast CKD. Ask your doctor about Jardiance for chronic kidney disease.
In Albany, Buffalo, was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and horse heads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
Day one of the National Glider Competition, severe flooding has caused major disruptions in parts of Steuben County.
Throughout the year, prison reform has become a priority around New York State.
We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let's go to a viewer comment during our Student Senior Services Fund section of the program. This viewer writes in, There's a late night time slot opening for a late edition of Frankly Speaking. We can start the day with a coffee version and end it with a beer version. I like the idea, but I don't know logistically how I would do that sleep-wise. I guess I could just not go to bed and consider it like the late night shift from 11:30 till 8. Yeah, we could do that. I'd be willing to do that. They can give me a call. No, that'd be fun. New York, thank you for the comments. That's very nice of you. New York's Governor Kathy Hochul opens a door to redrawing House lines. Yes, that confusion yet again. The Democrat governor's office has spoken with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries' team about the issues. Of course, they want to rig the system. They want to gerrymander. All's fair in love and war. See, Hochul tries to be so smug and cute, and it just falls so flat, doesn't she? Too cute by half. All's fair in love and war. We're following the rules. We do redistricting every 10 years. But if there's other states violating the rules and are trying to give themselves an advantage, all I'll say is I'm going to look at it closely with Hakeem Jeffries. Oh, no. You're going to look at it closely with Hakeem Jeffries? The governor's comments are the first since Republican Governor Greg Abbott announced a special session of the Texas legislature to focus on redistricting. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries' team spoke with Hochul's office about redistricting earlier this month following Abbott's announcement. According to two people with direct knowledge of the conversation, I'm not surprised that they're trying to break the rules to get an advantage, Hochul said. But that's undemocratic, and not only are we calling them out, we're also going to see what our options are. And this comes out on the heels of them, remember, their original drawings thrown out because they were so biased. Jeffrey said, I'm in conversations with members of the New York delegation as well as the governor to explore what, if anything else, can be done to ensure that New York does its part with respect to fair maps across the country. And every single state is going to have to do the same thing because Republicans are desperate. Senate Minority Leader Robert Orr said Kathy Hochul and Albany Democrats are experts at rigging the rules to protect their power and silence voters. Wow. So, again, Governor Hochul on redistricting saying, all's fair in love and war. We're following the rules. We do redistricting every 10 years. But if there's other states violating the rules and are trying to give themselves an advantage, all I'll say is I'm going to look at it closely with Hakeem Jeffries. Also, Hochul wrote an op-ed at USA Today. This came out yesterday. Pushing for nuclear power. Your thoughts on this? Affordability starts with energy. Whether it's powering a home, a business, or a factory floor, reliable and reasonably priced electricity makes New York's high quality of life possible. That's why I've made it a cornerstone of our strategy to grow jobs, attract investment, and give families a reason to stay and build their lives here. It's why I've worked to attract transformational economic development projects like Micron's $100 billion semiconductor campus outside of Syracuse, and our nation-leading effort to create the country's largest supercomputer dedicated to responsible AI in Buffalo. These investments bring jobs, opportunities, and long overdue momentum to upstate communities. I don't want to go through all this. She talks about, I grew up in Western New York, yada, yada, yada. So what she's calling for, and she's brought this up before, is nuclear power. Advanced nuclear power can fuel New York's future. It offers baseload electricity without burning fossil fuels. 1 gigawatt can power 1 million homes. It's reliable, carbon-free, and scalable. Scalable? It's not untested. New York already has 3 nuclear plants that have operated safely and efficiently for decades. These next-generation reactors will be even more advanced and secure. I understand concerns about cost. Some projects, like the plant in Georgia, came in late and over budget. We are learning from these experiences, applying best practices, and ensuring tight oversight. We can show the country that New York still knows how to build with ambition, discipline, and results. We're not just imagining the future, we're constructing it. When we pair New York's world-class workforce with forward-looking energy investments, we unlock a new era of innovation and inclusive economic growth. Energy helped write the story of the Rust Belt's rise and fall. Now it can power the comeback. Let's seize that opportunity and build the future that every New Yorker deserves. Your thoughts on that? By the way, since we're on New York State issues, Andrew Cuomo launched his rebrand. How many times has he rebranded? He wants, if this matters to you, I don't know why I'm bringing it up to you, but he's grasping at straws. We know the biggest problem he had is he was so confident, so cocky, that he was going to win the primary. He didn't even really campaign. He didn't go to the necessary, speeches, rallies, things like that, because it was his. He's Andrew Cuomo. His ego, his narcissism tells us that he's undoubtedly. How dare you not vote for him, right? Well, then Mamdani wins. So now he's trying to rewrite who he is, kind of direct himself. So the other day we heard he was going to try to be more nice, more like one of the guys, right? Just more one of the common folk. Now we're learning, no, we don't like that. Now he's going to be less being nice, which is really interesting because he had the reputation of never being nice. Even his own Democrat colleagues were scared of him back when he was in power. In the 10 days since announcing he would pursue an independent bid for mayor, Cuomo's acknowledged the mistakes that led to his stunning loss, and he is trying to prove he can turn the race around before November by rebooting his campaign. He is trying to demonstrate that he's going to be a different candidate as he hopes to keep donors on board and appeal to Democrats and independents who might be uncomfortable with Mamdani, who's a socialist. Some of the changes are easy to spot. Some other ones are a little more subtle. Cuomo was hard to find in the primary, often dodging reporters who wanted to ask about the sexual harassment allegations and complaints about his handling of COVID-19. Now he's doing, that's CNN not doing their viewers and their readers a service here, because you've got to mention when his handling of COVID-19, you've got to put it specifically, the COVID positive patients being put in with our most vulnerable in nursing homes. But I'll continue. Now he's doing more one-on-one interviews with the city's press corps at traditional campaign spots like subway stations. He's also sitting for podcast interviews where he's explaining what he thinks he did wrong in the primary. Long known for his brash style, short temper, and bullying tactics, Cuomo said he had adopted a softer approach during the primary campaign, and that did not work. So much for being nice, that's what I'll say, he told Stephen A. Smith. He'll also bring back more of his old style. Perhaps most importantly, he said he'll call out what he describes as unrealistic ideas from Mamdani, who has proposed freezing hikes on rent-controlled apartments, open city-run grocery stores, and making public buses free. Those slick slogans that sound good, everything's free, free buses, free education, free food, everything's free. Well, everything's free, baloney. If it sounds too good to be true, it isn't. Isn't it supposed to be it is? If it sounds too good to be true, it isn't. Is that how you actually say that? Andrew Cuomo's pathetic attempt to rebrand can't mask his decades of corruption and backroom deals with Republicans and billionaires that voters overwhelmingly rejected in June, Mamdani's spokesperson said. So there's just some small little things that he's changing. More vertical videos, too, whatever that means, as compared to taking the picture this way, going that way. Okay. And selfies, more selfies, less being nice. I will say his rollout video where he said, we're going to reach out and touch more people, that was not great public relations coming from somebody who had to resign from governor for allegedly reaching out and touching too many people. So on that note, one other thing about New York, and then we'll move along. I got a couple updates on Democrats as well. The Trump administration is suing New York City over its sanctuary city policies. The Justice Department announced a lawsuit against New York City's so-called sanctuary city policies days after the Trump administration blamed those policies for the shooting of an off-duty U.S. Customs and Border Protection officer in Manhattan. The lawsuit mirrors one filed against Los Angeles last month and is part of the administration's widespread crackdown on undocumented immigrants in the U.S. Similar lawsuits have also been filed against New York State, Colorado, Illinois, the city of Rochester, New York, and several New Jersey cities. The department argues New York City's policies are designed to impede the federal government's ability to enforce the federal immigration law. New York City has released thousands of criminals on the street to commit violent crimes against law-abiding citizens due to sanctuary city policies. If New York City won't stand up for the safety of its citizens, we will. Because of the lawsuit, Eric Adams said keeping New Yorkers safe also means making sure they feel safe. And we have been clear. No one should be afraid to dial 911, send their kids to school, or go to hospitals. And no New Yorker should feel forced to hide in the shadows. He added that while he supports the essence of the local laws, he believes they go too far when it comes to dealing with those violent criminals on our streets, and urged City Council to re-examine the policy to ensure we can effectively work with the federal government to make our city safer. All right. So there's your New York State updates for this morning. I say, oh, wow, a lot of comments coming in. We'll read those comments when we come back. Again, I mentioned, if you missed it, yesterday we had former Congressman and current Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski on the program. And on Wednesday, we had Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard. If you missed either of those interviews, they are up on our YouTube page, our Big Fox YouTube page. So like that page and watch those interviews because they were both really, really good interviews. They're two fan favorites. We got to talk to Phil Palmisano. I talked to him for a minute yesterday, but we got to get him back on. So I'll text him and see when he can be on the program again. All right, but we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Confidence isn't given. It's built. One choice, one moment, one step at a time. How you feel is how you play. It starts with a click. Invisalign.
Is this your mom?
Yes.
And that's your dad?
Nope.
I'm the father.
Even if you're the father, you're lying. My family does not like my boyfriend.
Solid family.
I've had enough of this. I'm not your mommy.
Now you're just talking crazy.
Don't do that. I'm not your auntie, I'm your mother.
Can't cross mama and come in here and get treated nice. Your case is dismissed and so are you.
We've had so many wonderful memories as a family. Dropping Shelly off at school, I prayed he wouldn't get stuffed in a gym bag. Missy might have been the one in Little League.
I'm asking the Lord to watch over my little girl. Well, while you're at it, ask him for a win. I got money on this.
But Georgie is the one who threw us the real curveball.
I got a girl pregnant.
Oh, no. Are you kidding me? We may not be perfect, but to me, we have the perfect family.
When you're on, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. And let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program, where we read viewer comments, shall we? All right, there we go. Regarding HOCO's new look at alternatives to so-called renewable energies, it's just a waste of money because given the one-party rule that festers here in New York and the ridiculous taxes, etc., no business would locate here. When it comes to a nuclear power plant, think to... But I get what you're saying, though, because that's one of the things she said. Businesses will have a better energy, cheaper energy. But when we talked about it with Joe yesterday, imagine you're a business and you say, okay, I'm going to move in. And then that business falls out of favor. But you followed all the rules, every single bit of red tape. You followed all of it. And then Governor Hochul has shown to you as a business owner they can come back after the fact and sue you or get, $3 billion a year in that climate change super fund. So, yeah, I'm with you. No business is coming here. Comment from Mark. I'll say this till I die. No Mo Cuomo. And come on, Stefanik, join the race. Yes, Cuomo, two different races there, of course. One for mayor, one for governor. But yes, I would love to see, and we talked about it with Joe yesterday, I would love to see Stefanik get in earlier than November. I was hoping that maybe after Lawler announced that he wasn't running, that she would jump right in. That doesn't seem to be the case. According to that reporting by the New York Times, she is thinking about November. That seems very late to me, though I will say she has more name recognition than Lee Zeldin has. I would argue that she has some of the most name recognition in all of New York State when it comes to being a Republican. So, yes, I'm with you. The sooner the better. Ken writes in, You could do what the Late Show does. Tape the show earlier and replay it in the 11 o'clock spot. Well, that's a good idea. To tell the difference between the two time slots, the 11 p.m. show could be called Speaking Frankly. I like it. Speaking Frankly at 11:30 and Frankly Speaking starting at 6 a.m. I think that's a brilliant idea, Ken. Thank you. All right. Comment from a different viewer. Your program today seems to be flying. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Maybe it's as a result of the weather, but already you are an hour and a half in, but it feels like you've only been on for about a half an hour. It does seem to be going really quickly, too, doesn't it? Maybe we're all working for the weekend and just going fast. Could that be it? I don't know. But the weather. Yeah, the weather's been brutal, huh? Now, Joe, I'm just saying this quickly because I think it's funny. We talked about it with Joe Soplinsky yesterday, but the Hunter Biden interview that is making the rounds, I guess you could even say it became viral because it is wild. I didn't watch the full 3 hours, in full disclosure. I did not watch the full 3 hours. But put aside just how much cussing he did, his in-depth look at the crack cocaine was just mind-boggling. Well, Joe Rogan, who was no fan of President Biden, but he was gushing over Biden's son in that bizarre interview. He said that he's smarter than his dad. And he could be president. How about that, Rogan said on his podcast. He could. No baloney. Hunter Biden, after all he's been through. Look, his dirty laundry's all out there. We all see it. He was a freak. He's smarter than his dad when his dad was young, and he was a crackhead. That's what Joe Rogan said. He also suggested that with the remarks that he made about his past drug use, he called the interview the greatest crack advertisement of all time. My goodness. I'm not going to go through all the quotes that he said. It is really insanity. Let's see. Rogan said, if crack wasn't terrible for you, this guy makes me want to try it. Full disclaimer here. Do not. This is what Rogan can say. Do not do that. But he said, I'm not going to. Don't do it. I'm not giving any advice. But I'm saying this guy, like legitimately, this might be the best advertisement for it. He's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. He's not dumb. Rogan has been very strange lately. But he said he could be president, that he's better than his dad. Whatever your thought. Well, that's maybe how bad the Democrat Party is doing right now. Because Isaac Shore, I thought this was a really good point by Isaac Shore. She said, longtime Democrat hand Rahm Emanuel, you remember Rahm Emanuel, wants to believe he can win his party's presidential nomination in 2028. But deep down, he knows he can't, and not for lack of self-confidence or self-delusion. Emanuel has been testing the water ahead of a possible White House campaign for months. Politico reported in March that he was gearing up for a run, and he's been making the rounds advocating for a more moderate, plain-spoken Democrat Party ever since. On Monday, that mission took him to Megyn Kelly's radio show, where she asked him a series of straightforward questions about gender ideology and policy. The former chief of staff of Barack Obama dithered when asked if minors should have access to irreversible hormone therapies, but agreed with Megyn Kelly that biological boys have no place in girls' sports. Why did all the Democrats bail off of that point, Kelly asked. A couple came out right after the election and said that what you just said, and that they got browbeaten, and then they started to walk it back. The answer's in the question, Emanuel said. That's not ever scared me. I used to say this to President Clinton and President Obama. Sound is not always fury. Sometimes it's just sound. And don't assume just because somebody's screaming at you, they represent more than their own voice. But just a few moments later, he betrayed himself. When Kelly asked him directly if a man can become a woman, Emanuel, after a pause, answered her truthfully, no. Because I'm not going to go in a witness protection plan. He laughed nervously. Emanuel, let me take a step back. So maybe he's a little scared. But the reason she brings this up, and I think it's a really good point, as valuable as the still palatable nostalgia for the Obama years might be in a Democrat primary, there's not enough clout in the world for Emanuel to borrow that could make up for his own deficiencies as a candidate. But his flirtation with the presidential bid is less interesting for what it says about him than what it says about the party. Years out from the start of a primary season, the activists are sharpening their knives, aiming to take Emanuel down and make an example of him. Quote, What a loser, remarked left-wing journalist Malcolm Harris as he blasted Emmanuel's sit-down with Kelly. That is such a baloney podcaster, Jennifer Welch shouted at him. And in a New Republic feature this month, mockingly titled How Rahm Emanuel Got Trapped in the Bathroom, Parker Malloy accused him of treating trans kids as a punchline and for erroneously believing that Democrats can win by becoming the party of strategic cruelty. Institutionally, the Democratic Party has moved on not just from Rahm Emanuel, but from common sense and political practicality. So don't bet on him or anyone else who openly embraces either notion, becoming the Democrats' next standard bearer. So this goes back to the point we've been making that he is more of a establishment figure, and the establishment figures are being pushed out. That's the theory here. That's why AOC has become the face of the Democrat Party to many people, why Mamdani won the mayoral race, because there is this push to get rid of the James Carvils, even the Obama employees, I can't think of their names, but have the Pod Save America podcast, the Rahm Emanuels of the world. They want the party that has now leaned more towards socialism. And of course, I say that Mamdani is an avowed socialist, Democrat socialist, lean more towards that kind of the anti-Semitic protests. So there's the two factions warring against each other. So no, Rahm Emanuel most likely doesn't have a chance, but the fact that he thinks he does and needs to put his hat in the ring goes to show you how bad the party has become. All right. We've got a couple of Trump updates. I'm running a little late. We got a lot of comments coming in. So get your last minute comments in as we're getting ready to wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. We will be right back.
Want to know why it's hard to stop a train? It's how we've invented products that reinvented our world. It's how we test as hard as the elements do. It's how we run.
Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning in Corning is now offering residential plumbing services. A local, veteran-owned and operated company with over 25 years experience. You can trust the experts at Aaron's Heating and Air Conditioning.
8 p.m. somewhere. Do you know where your kids are online?
We've had many wonderful memories as a family, but Georgie is the one who threw us the real curveball.
I got a girl pregnant.
Are you kidding me? We may not be perfect, but to me, we have the perfect family.
You're watching Big Fox, WYDC TV, Elmira Corning.
Big Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. We got a lot of comments coming in. Thank you so much for all the comments this morning. Let's get right to them. This is the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program where we read viewer comments. Steuben Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to age at home. Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Rick. The Hulkster is gone. Been a tough week. Rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. Yes, it has been a very difficult week. Chuck Mangione passed away, Rochester native, as we mentioned earlier as well. But Rick continues, U.S. automakers didn't like Trump's new Japan deal. 15% tariffs on their import vehicles, 25% on our export vehicles. Doesn't sound like a good deal to me. Who did the math on this one? And Trump showing up at the Fed job site with Powell is nothing short of horrendous. Like Powell is a little kid or something. He always finds a way to be crummy to get his way, always. The Deputy Attorney General went to visit Maxwell today. You know their message to her will be there's nothing in the Epstein files about Trump that is negative and you get to walk. Trump is such a zero. Well, this should ignite some grumbling. Sweet. So much material, so little time. Oh, and if someone with some power and a soul would put some effort into stop starving the Palestinians in Gaza, that would be awesome for us folks that don't like to see people starve to death. Have a good weekend, Rick. Well, thanks, Rick. Have a good weekend yourself. Comment from other voters. I like Ken's idea about frankly speaking, too. How could we make this happen? Yes, I appreciate it, but I don't think Stephen Colbert's group is going to reach out and say the late night gig is over there. And it's not just Stephen Colbert. They're not even going to do a late show. But I do like it. Speaking Frankly. I like the idea about Speaking Frankly. Yes, the late night edition, Speaking Frankly. That's very funny. Got me laughing pretty hard, Ken. I appreciate it. But thank you for the follow-up question or follow-up comment from someone else. I'm glad that you like Ken's idea. All right. Another comment from a different viewer. First, great job, Frank. Well, hey, thank you. And great job, Bob. Yes, we got a Climate Fact Friday from Bob. If you missed it, this is why you can't miss a second, frankly speaking. Stefanik is getting a lot of free publicity by not announcing. Just a thought. That's not a bad point. She is getting a lot of publicity. That also gives her the opportunity. It's not as if she's not technically campaigning. She still is going outside of her congressional district and having meetings and going to various events. So you may be onto something there. I'm not sure why November, what her thoughts are on that. But I mean, the problem is with that this could change. I know we talk about it only as if there was Mike Lawler and at least Stefanik, but Bruce Blakeman's name is technically still being thrown around, even though I think he is focused on his own executive race. But you never know who some out of nowhere candidate comes out that actually has a little bit of money but no name recognition. Has happened in the past. Well, look, for instance, when Carl Palladino defeated Lazio, Rick Lazio, that was an interesting upset election. That was really at the height of the Tea Party, too. So he had that going for him. He was more of a Tea Party type candidate at the time because his slogan was like he was going to take a baseball bat to Albany or something. But that was an upset race. So could there be something like that? Now, like what we've said in the past, we do not want a primary in the Republican Party. That would be disastrous at the end of the day. All right, finally, Ken writes in, Hunter fits right in with Bernie, AOC, Crockett, and Mondani, the new faces of the Democrat Party. You're not wrong, Ken, at all. You're exactly right. I don't know why I worded it that way, but you're spot on, because if you look at this is how they're handling their talking points now with all the cussing, the anger, with Crockett specifically. She teeters on that line of violent rhetoric. AOC was kind of I'm not going to say the starter of this. People have cussed throughout history, but I'm saying that kind of aggressiveness, Bernie Sanders and her, now you see it with so many others. Yeah, and Hunter Biden does fit right in. If you didn't know his background story, you would think he was a part of one of these podcasts that push far left narratives. Except for in his instance, you could argue that he's pushing the establishment, the Biden establishment. But so the Democrat Party yesterday, the Democrat National Committee, drew widespread mockery over a since deleted social media post that showed how the cost of groceries have skyrocketed, under former President Joe Biden. The post included a graph of soaring cheese, alcohol, dairy, grocery, produce, and meat prices dating back to October of 2019, with the major inflection point being near the start of the Biden administration. Trump's America, the tweet read. Prices are higher today than they were on July 2024, all in major categories listed below. Read the caption on the graphic, which didn't, by the way, note the source of where they got this graph. The White House Rapid Response account seized on the post, adding a Biden label with two arrows pointing to the price jumps under the previous administration. The Biden-era price surge, highlighted in red by the White House, took up the majority of the graph, whereas a more stable cost of goods under Trump was only a sliver of the chart. Several people on social media pointed out the self-own, as it's called online. Several people on social media pointed out the I'm sorry, I got distracted by a viewer there. I don't know, kind of looks like Biden's America. So kind of what you call a little bit of a mistake, a little boo-boo. All right. We got to take our last break. Get those last-minute comments in, and we'll be right back. But frankly speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmaron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmaron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmaron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmaron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Get for the 180 83rd Chemung County Fair, July 29th through August 2nd at the Chemung County Fairgrounds in Horseheads. Experience thrilling rides, exciting games, and captivating livestock shows. Taste delicious fair food and explore local vendors. Catch grandstand favorites like truck and tractor pulls, demolition derbies, Black Cat Drivers Stunt Car Show, and the Battle of the Bands on July 31st. Join us for the 183rd Chemung County Fair. Visit ChemungCountyFair.com for tickets and details.
An albino buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds in Horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
Day one of the National Glider Competition, severe flooding has caused major disruptions in parts of Steuben County.
Throughout the year, prison reform has become a priority around New York State.
Frankly speaking, roof cam needs to be rebooted, but we always take our great friends at Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. We've got a comment from a viewer here as we wrap up today's edition. To continue with Climate Fact Friday, with the elimination of the Late Show, with the 60-inch televisions turned off, it will lower the room temperature by half a degree. Well, there you go. I don't think too many people that watch the show, I could be wrong, are staying up and watching Stephen Colbert on the 60-inch TV. But I appreciate your help. Trump's economic agenda is leading to decades-high wage increases, capital expenditures, and record tariff revenue, according to the Treasury. They're calling it the ABCs, America First, Blue Collar Boom, and capital expenditures comeback. This is according to the Treasury. I'm not going to go through all the numbers because you know how that works when you start reading through all the numbers, but that coming from the Treasury. Trump also signed an executive order yesterday forcing homeless off America's streets, calling it an endemic vagrancy, and demanding treatment centers. The order redirects federal funding to prioritize shifting homeless individuals into long-term institutional settings for humane treatment through the appropriate use of civil commitment. On average, more than 274,000 people were sleeping on the streets each night last year under then-President Joe Biden, the order says. The overwhelming majority of these individuals are addicted to drugs, have a mental health disorder, or both. The federal government and the states have spent tens of billions of dollars on failed programs that address homelessness but not its root causes, leaving other citizens vulnerable to public safety threats. Also, the USDA is going to vacate several Washington buildings and relocate their staff to regional hubs. All right, that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you for all the great comments. Thank you to everybody who reached out. I know it did go very quickly this morning, but I'm glad that you could be a part of the quick edition of Frankly Speaking. And tune in Monday morning and every weekday morning for Frankly Speaking. By the way, thank you to our guest this week, Sheriff Jim Allard, and former Congressman and current Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. If you missed those interviews, they are currently up on our Big Fox YouTube page, so make sure you go on there and follow our YouTube page so that you can get all the up-to-date interviews and Frankly Speaking broadcast. Finally, one last comment from a viewer. This is a great one to end on. Frank, love the show. Have a relaxing weekend. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for letting us end on that note. I hope you have a relaxing weekend, too. We'll see you all Monday morning. I look forward to it already.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.